Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We are on the clock. Coming up in this segment, we'll be speaking with Stephany Spaulding, Dr. Stephany Rose Spaulding, on her run for Congress. She'll be joining us at 8:45. Good morning to everyone across all the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You could join the conversation this morning by calling in. The number will be across your screen, 301-715-8592. Good morning to you, DJ Exclusive. We appreciate what you're doing over there, man. How's it going with you?
Pretty good, sir. How about you?
It's going, man. It's going. I was in and out of the dad jokes. Y'all were having a good party this morning with us already, without me, but that's okay. I'll catch up on the next break.
Right.
We having I heard what I wanted to ask about actually was you figured out a way to get karaoke going.
Yeah.
How?
I mean, it's not difficult, and okay. It's pretty simple. Basically, I can share the screen, and there's a website that people can go to called Watch Together, and that website syncs everything: music, microphone, everything. I did a little small test yesterday, but I'm going to widen the test later today, maybe tomorrow. Okay. So then we can make sure that it's working correctly. But it's really easy to do. People will be able to get in queue. I can type in what song they want looking for and they want to sing. Nice. They can unmute their mics, and the hardest thing is going to be getting people to unmute their mic, but that won't be a problem. Yeah.
Actually, no, that is a problem in this pandemic. It's still 2020. Everyone is still on mute in Zoom. So, but no, it sounds like a great idea, man. I'm going to be there. We encourage all the people who cannot sing. We want you to come especially because that does actually make it a lot more fun. Georgia Ford is not with us the last couple of days. She has been out on location covering stories, so many important issues, and we have quite a bit of her footage. I want us to take a minute to go over some of the things that Georgia has been doing while she's been away from the morning show. This first clip is of Resmaa Menakem, and I know without a doubt that I did that name wrong. Please forgive me. And this is a clip of what is being described as one of the most profound, powerful, and perceptive voices of our time. He is considered to be a healer, an author, and a trauma therapist. And Georgia is interviewing him here about his new book, The Quaking of America. And it is a defining cultural shifting piece of literature that surveys America's deteriorating democracy and offers embodied practices to help us protect ourselves and our country. I think it's an important conversation. Let's take a listen to this interview with Georgia Ford.
In The Quaking of America, you talk about the GOP inciting a civil war by inciting a collective trauma response. Talk about that.
Right. I'm gonna just say, so when I talk about the GOP inciting a war, and inciting specifically a racialized war, having very racialized pieces to it. I think about it about when I was watching the January 6th attempted coup, right? I'm sitting there watching that, and there's a part of me that knows this is getting ready to be crazy. Right, I'm watching what people starting to show up. White people starting to a lot of white. Like when a whole lot of white people start showing up to an event, in my black body, I'm like, this could go bad really quickly. Right, specifically around democracy, around votes, around legislature, right? I'm sitting there watching that, and then I start to see the gallows being erected, right? I'm like, wow, that's so we're reaching back, and now we got a hangman's noose. Now I'm starting to see the Auschwitz signs. Now I'm starting to see AR-15s. Now I'm starting to see weapons. Now I'm starting to see people kick out windows. Ain't nobody dead yet? Ain't nobody shot nobody yet? Why are they allowing this to happen? So as I'm watching this, there's both this kind of, I'm simultaneously holding this thing like, this is curious and disbelief that all of these white bodies are beginning to do things and hearken back to particular points in our culture and in our history, right? The noose, the Auschwitz, all these particular pieces, right? And nothing's happening. Nobody's moving in to stop it. Everybody, right? everybody's leaning towards giving white people a lot of comfort.
Doc, I got to see the rest of that interview, James, because I'm glad somebody else sees it. Like I sometimes, matter of fact, Brother Mac last week said, Brother Ben, I sometimes thought you were going crazy over there with your right-wing conspiracy. And I'm like, no, man, he sees it now, right? And listening to that interview, it's important that we have people in positions that understand very clearly the stakes, because as he said at the very end there, James, there's a lot that's coming from this white supremacist strain in America, but nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's stopping. In fact, they're going further. They're getting more emboldened. They're getting louder and prouder with their racism and their dangerous rhetoric. What do you think, man?
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely right, Ben. You see that all the day with the appropriation of our culture and our white counterparts.
I was waiting. I was waiting on
white. Oh my gosh! And in the after parties today, we probably have a video that shows the appropriation of our culture.
Oh man, listen!
Oh my gosh! I saw it. That segue is off the chain.
I saw. That was you know what? I saw that video, and I know what video you're talking about. What she was rapping? Was she rapping "Da Baby" or "Lil Baby"? I can't remember which baby she was rapping.
Yeah,
Lil Baby. It was one of the babies she was rapping. We'll play that in the after party. In the meantime, I want to shift gears a little bit here. Our guest is here already. Dr. Stephany Spaulding, who is running for Congress. She's running for Congress in Illinois' 1st District. I had the pleasure of speaking with her first on the Menakem Show. Good morning to you, Dr. Spaulding. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We are wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this early in the morning. Tell us about yourself and your run.
I'm sorry, but I actually cannot hear Benjamin.
Okay, not a problem. I'll keep talking until you can hear me a little bit clearly. I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your race, your candidacy, and your campaign there in Illinois.
Fantastic. Yes, I am running for Illinois' 1st congressional district. For those who do not know, it is the district that Bobby Rush has been the congressperson for the last 30 years. It is also the district that Barack Obama lost to Bobby Rush when he was first trying to enter into federal government. And it is one of the first minority majority districts in the country. So I am running to bring back the investment and love and hope to the district that I grew up in, where I was born and raised, and where my family is still very integral in this district.
I had a chance to speak with you on the Menakem Show, and you were talking about the economics of your campaign, the economic policies that you're fighting for, working class people, fighting for infrastructure. Tell us about some of the things you're fighting to bring to that district.
Absolutely. Like, we are in such a disparate space, right? There are some parts of the district where, because the people don't necessarily look like us, where investment has really thrived. But then there are other spaces, like right up the block from me, where there used to be really strong economic corridors on the south side of Chicago that have not been revitalized in decades. There are just tremendous food deserts. There is a vacuum of jobs specifically in this district throughout certain zip codes, where Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, Roseland, West Pullman, those places where you have had white flight and banks to leave. And so for me, it is, how do we make sure that opportunities and resources are equitable, especially from the federal government? We talk about infrastructure. Transportation is one of the worst in this part of the city as well as the state. And so again, for me, when we think about what is just, what is right, especially for Black communities and minoritized communities, it is returning that investment to our neighborhoods and to our communities so that we have equal opportunity across the board.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You're representing, or you would be representing, the South Side of Chicago. You mentioned Bobby Rush, former Black Panther activist, just all around civil rights icon. Talk to us about that intersection of economics as well as the racial fight, because what you described there on the South Side of Chicago in the first district, it sounds a lot like Jacksonville, Florida. It sounds a lot like certain parts of Atlanta, James.
Right.
There are food deserts. There's lack of opportunity, and obviously we know wherever there's lack of economic opportunity, we see increased crime rates. Tell us about that intersection.
Absolutely. So first, we contextually and historically, this is the space where you had Black people who were fleeing the racism of the South. This was where they were drawn to in the Great Migration. And even prior, there's even a stop on the Underground Railroad here in this specific part of the district. And so there's this connection historically to the institutionalized racism that is built in, caked into American society. And so there are also, in more recent times, histories where there are high schools in this district where, you know, people that I know, my grandparents could not attend. They could not be caught in parts of this district at certain times. But then again, you had the Great Migration, you had integration happening. And what ended up happening was a lot of white flight once Black and brown people started to move in the late 60s and the late 70s. When you watch A Raisin in the Sun, they're really talking about what is happening and going on in the housing market of Chicago on various parts of the city, but it's happening right here on the South Side. And we have the remnants of that institutionalized racism that has kept economic prosperity and wealth building, where Black people thought buying a home would be their gateway into building wealth for their families. Now you have families that are losing value in their property because there are no banks, there are no businesses, there is no economic value surrounding the community. And so crime rates are increasing, and all of that matters, which is why the work that I do at the federal level really speaks to truth and conciliation work. We saw Harvard taking accountability yesterday, but it's not enough. This entire country needs to take accountability for the impacts of institutionalized racism on our communities and the effects that we are still living with.
All right. You know what, James, I don't know how we do it on this show. I might have to just thank the producer or the algorithm, because we end up finding the dopest Black women coming through, snatching. I mean, because Dr. Spaulding, like, you said a word there. Right. And I think what's so frustrating for a lot of Black people, particularly, is that we've sent a lot of people to Washington, D.C. who look like us, but we ain't got nary a thing in return. Right. So, like, how do you convince us and the people listening? Because you're saying everything right. But how would you convince someone who is disillusioned because of how many Black faces we have in high places, but they ain't doing nothing for us?
I would say listen deeply, right? That people's track records should demonstrate the kind of fruit that they will produce. That's the scripture, right? I'm also a pastor, right? That a tree is known by its fruit. I have been working in truth and conciliation practices for years I literally am a critical race theorist. So all of this conversation that people are now coming to, I've been doing for decades. And I not only know the research. When people are asking, well, we need to do a study. We don't need to do the study. We need to actually do the work that repairs the harm of institutionalized racism and policies that are built in white supremacist ideology. Like, we know folks' track records. So listen to them deeply, look at the fruit that they have produced in their past. And that's who we should send into these spaces that have access to power. If they've done nothing previously, they're not going to do anything differently going forward.
Dr. Stephany Rose Spaulding, tell everyone how they can support your campaign.
You can support our campaign in a multitude of ways, 3 specifically. First, find us online at spauldingforcongress.com. You can volunteer virtually. You can volunteer in person. You can also donate to our campaign, because the other piece is Black women are the least funded when they are running for office at every single level. So if you're watching right now, even if it's a $5 donation, we need your support so that we can get in these seats.
Wow. Dr. Spaulding,
Yes,
thank you so much. Like I honestly probably would ask 3 or 4 more questions, but I know you have a hectic schedule. But I will say this, James, hey man, let's take a road trip. Let's go up and volunteer in the 1st Congressional District and help us. Somebody, let's get up there and knock on some doors because Dr. Spaulding, I absolutely love what you're saying.
Absolutely, and I've never been to Chicago either, so I would love to go, and I would do my best to get there. Let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. We'll love to have you back soon.
Thank you.
I want to shift gears here and go back to some of the reporting here from another dynamic Black woman. James, we blessed with, we surrounded by some pretty dope Black women, Doc.
Man, yes, we are, Ben. Yes, we are. Black women rock, man. I love it. Black woman magic, not black girl magic, Black woman magic. I love it.
That Black grown, I like the auntie magic, man. It's the aunties. Bring out the aunties for me. But the Black woman, grown woman magic that can change your life, it's highly recommended. I digress. I want to move on to another dynamic Black woman. This is another clip from our sister Georgia Fort. Yesterday, she wasn't with us because she was attending the first Black-owned bank opening up in Minnesota. First Independence Bank opens in the Twin Cities. This is the first Black-owned bank in Minnesota, opened its doors yesterday morning, and it is a Detroit-based company that has been around for 52 years and received support from 5 corporate-owned banks. Let's take a look at this grand opening that Georgia Fort was a part of yesterday.
And being a first Black-owned bank reminds us of banks being beacons of hope. What you've seen with the collaboration with the 5 banks, Bank of America, Bremer Bank, Huntington Bank, Wells Fargo, and U.S. Bank, is that when we work together, we can do things that can be unprecedented, like today's historic announcement. So we're very grateful for being here today representing a Black bank, the first in Minnesota.
We're Black-owned, but we're not Black-only. We're hopeful that we can grow relationships with anyone. And that's important because, I've been personally asked by folks that don't look like me, well, can I bank with you since you're a Black-owned bank? Well, absolutely. Because it gives us the resource and the capacity to really be effective in the spaces that we're trying to go.
So as Lieutenant Governor, I have the honor to welcome you officially to Minnesota. I'm incredibly excited that we can say in both Michigan and Minnesota, we have this incredible institution.
We're about to really rewrite the history books, not just with the historic move of a Black-owned bank coming to the state of Minnesota to service the Twin Cities metro area, but how it came together, right? How you got 5 large institutions that parked their logos at the door, and they came together and supported the whole initiative of partnering and bringing a Black-owned bank here.
What an exciting day. We are so delighted to be welcoming First Independence Bank to our community. This is just wonderful. I was part of a group from U.S. Bank that worked together with Wells Fargo, Huntington, Bremer, and Bank of America, all of us collaborating to provide the resources required to help First Independence come to this community, because we are all so passionately committed to creating an environment in this community where everybody can thrive and where we address the racial wealth gaps that existed for too long in this community.
First Independence Bank has been around now we're approaching 52 years, serving the underbanked, the unbanked, and specifically people of color. We're a resource with solutions, and we're hopeful to partner with underbanked and unbanked communities to serve and give them access, creating home ownership, which will lead to generational wealth.
Oh, man. Shout out to Georgia Fort for that wonderful.
The chat room is going crazy over that guy.
The last guy.
I'm sorry.
He was so excited. I've never been excited about any bank the way that man. I don't think I've been excited about anything the way that white man was excited about his bank right there. But I'm sorry. It was amazing. Listen, don't charge it. Take down Georgia for today. Because we're sitting in the background, like, okay, so shout out to First Independence Bank. Like, that is a great, the black-owned bank
that's awesome.
Is definitely needed, especially when you look specifically how black people have been intentionally alienated and targeted, redlined out of wealth. And there's nothing that we can do in this system. You know, the entire time that clip was playing, the socialist in me was just twitching, just like, it was. But there's literally nothing that we can accomplish here without the proper funding, without the right manpower and boots on the ground. So shout out to the bank. And I'm trusting that as they carry that label of black owned, that they will address specifically those things that black people have faced historically with all of those banks that are now partnering with them, including Wells Fargo and Bank of America. So, all of my socialism senses were tingling, but still, at the end of the day, if we do not have the resources to accomplish what we need to accomplish, then we're going to continue to see black communities dilapidated with all of the talent in the world, but no resources. So shout out to Georgia for going there and getting this coverage yesterday. Absolutely. What were they saying in the chat? It
was like, sure, dude.
I was like,
right. But it is awesome. I know we do have a black bank here, and I cannot remember the name of it. And it used to get frowned upon so much, but over the past few years, it's grown so much actually that it's become one of the top banks here in Georgia. So I think it's real good. I know it's going to go far. I mean, I hate that you heard those other names, those other bank names.
Like I was like, not Wells Fargo, not Wells Fargo that opened up millions of fraudulent accounts. But you know what? And let them do something good.
And not
for a
only
change.
that,
let them do something
but
good for a
also
change.
giving black people a hard time.
That's right.
Exactly, Dwayne.
Right. That's right. You know what? We'll feel a lot better. Put a couple of more zeros behind their funding, and we'll forgive you, Wells Fargo. Drop them. Open up a whole new line, like $1 billion of line for them, and then we'll forgive you for all the other stuff. And then for those overdraft fees that you put everyone through, Bank of America, the class action lawsuit where millions of people had to sue because Bank of America was rearranging those purchases. Remember that back in the day? Bank of America would take your biggest purchase and put it first, so that every time you went to Starbucks, McDonald's, everything that was like $2 ended up costing you $40. Bank of America did that for years. So I think also you need to pour more money into the black community just to make a penance for all that you've exploited from the black community. Ooh, Lord, y'all get me out of this segment before we go even further. James, this is a good spot as any. I think we're at the top of the hour. We got a lot of more clips, a lot of more black woman magic. I like the way you change that. It ain't black girl magic. It's grown auntie magic. Coming back on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show after this break. We'll be back.
Will somebody say TT magic?